is all right, I can go through my I don't even know where to start. So my first trip. So you're supposed to take um
What interested you in this?
because it's showing that science is finally catching up with nature. So like in the 1960s, whatever, 1950s, 60s, 70s, when they found out how mushrooms can actually help with like depression, anxiety, just and give you an overall experience of life, you know. And they showed the medicinal use for it in the 70s, and then next thing you know, man, like the of course the pharmaceuticals, you can't make money off something that you only have to use 2 times a year, you know.
Right.
So they end up banning it. Plus, man, this thing gives you a level of consciousness that you will never be able to experience with your own 2 eyes just sitting here. Like, yeah, I'll just give like a few little things. I could go into more detail if you want to, but you're able to go into your past, see things as vividly as you're looking at it right now, and you're able to pause time. Like I was able to go to a conversation that I was having with my girlfriend back in like 99, 2000, whatever like that. And I was like, I don't feel like doing this right now. It hit a pause, and it's not like I'm thinking about it. It's like a full dream, like your 3D reality, you know? And I went visit my grandmother my grandmother's grandfather passed away, you know, but I went to like a time where I was just sitting at the kitchen that I never been there, but I was watching them just go about their day. Like she was fixing a cup of orange juice, he was just eating his food on the table, and I just listened to them have a conversation. It it's not explainable to a person that's never been on it. It sounds weird.
Oh,
Huh?
yeah, I've taken shrooms. I took shrooms about 15 years ago.
What was your dose?
So I don't even remember, man. We had a bag of it. I took like, I don't know. I just nibbled on maybe three or four of them. I'm not sure. I don't really remember. I remember the trip, which is kind of what I wanted to discuss. Is it sounds like it's a subjective experience, right?
Oh, for yeah.
So so everybody's going to have a different experience with it, right?
Oh, 100%, man. 100.
So
It's
how much?
huh?
So, so what if one were to theorize? What if I was to theorize and say everybody who took shrooms would essentially be taking a trip into their unconscious?
Oh, that's what it is. 100%. There's no question about that, man. Like you're not even theorizing anything. But I tell you, the beauty of it is everyone has, because like it's very whatever your mind go towards is gonna take you there. Like one girl, she said she looked inside the mirror and she seen blood coming out the top of her head, down the sides of her face, and over her body. And when she got out of the trip, she noticed that she was wearing a red hoodie. So
Right.
yeah, and it's like the red that she's seen, her brain was like probably like, what if that's blood? And then the brain automatically gave for a real life visualization of blood coming out. But the thing about a trip is every person, like you could go there's a Netflix thing called A Good Trip. There's a other documentaries. If you go on YouTube, one thing that all everyone that has taken a trip, they become one with the universe.
Interesting.
Everything else is subjective. Everything is what, oh man, I'll go visit my grandmother, I'll go do this, I'll go do that, whatever like that. But one thing everyone has all experienced in 100% of trips is that they body dispersed and became one with the universe during a part of their trip. Because the trip is about 8 hours.
Wow.
Yeah, and the funny thing about that is, I mean, of course, it's subjective, whatever. To put in my mind, think like that was about 2 years ago. You brought up the phrase retro causality, and
Right.
inside of my dream, I went back to August 2003, like right before me and my homeboy in real life went to a concert, to the Jay-Z, the Rock the Mic concert, whatever like that in Beaumont.
Yeah.
And what happened was, while I'm on my trip, I'm having an out of body experience, looking at myself, and I tell myself, do not worry about what you're gonna wear. You're gonna get something in Houston. And in real life, I didn't worry about what I was gonna wear, and I ended up calling my sister and be like, "Do you know any place?"
Yo.
And it actually happened. Like I actually bought a shirt in Houston that I wore to the concert.
Hey, so what's spicy about that is incorporating the laws of causality and this is why I love tennis so much. Like you have to ask yourself what event really occurred first. Was it you taking the trip and telling yourself, or was it it's mind-boggling.
Right. Like you said, was it the trip that caused me to do it, or did it happen in my brain showing me how it was done? You know, unconsciously.
How it was done, exactly. If you're taking a trip, so to speak, through the wires of your brain and how your neurology works and how your decisions have been made, and really coming into understanding the universe that you live in, then it may be that this is like a truth, that this is an actual how things work, but it still leaves it somewhat ambiguous at the same time, because you went back to that specific event. It's not like you went to every event,
Right.
every choice that you've made. So there was still something going on, maybe a precursor to your trip, or something on your mind that was intent on answering that specific question of that specific event. That's fascinating.
True, yeah, because like I said, it's very subjective, man. And the thing about it is, about 45 minutes. It takes about 45 minutes for it to kick in or whatnot. I unconsciously, I found myself doing the swirls of Doctor Strange. Like my hands started when I was laying on my, because I filmed my trip, you know, and I was laying on my back, and like geometrical figures was coming off of the ground, I it's very important for your setting, like everything to be like how you will want it, because you don't want anything to trip your trip, you know, inside of a bad way. So I vacuumed the carpet, whatever, like that, and the figures inside the carpet started rising up from the carpet, coming inside of like a 3D figure. And while I'm looking at them from my laying on my back, my hands automatically goes into that swirl that Doctor Strange does when he's building up like that little circle thing, whatever. I'm not huge into Marvel, whatever like that, but I can see how like the producers can take a mushroom trip and add it into their film. You know,
Visual.
yeah.
Turned it into visual with CGI and stuff like that. Yeah, absolutely.
Right, I went into two of my homeboys' lives. Like, I grew up with this dude named Ray. I was him. Like, my whole body became skinny, like, because he's like very skinny. And then I was my homeboy Kenneth, and I started to feel like a little bit chubby. Like like I was going inside their consciousness. It's weird, man.
That's fascinating, bro.
Yeah.
I
See,
wonder, were they there with you, or had
no,
you
no, no,
spoken
no.
to them earlier in the day or anything
Oh,
like
I
that?
haven't seen Ray since over 10 years now.
Oh my gosh, that's crazy.
Yeah, and my homeboy lives in Florida. Like, I see him maybe 5 times within the past 10 years.
Huh.
Yeah, it's not even like they was close. It's kind of like my brain was like, I wonder what it's like to. And then my homeboy's name Ray, right? And then my brain, because every single 5, 30 seconds, every single like 2 to 3 minutes feels like an eternity, because time doesn't exist anymore. So,
Sure.
while I said, man, what that was weird. Like, why would I even want to be Ray? And then next thing you know, my brain brought it back to like the Egyptian mythology, the god Ra, like the overall god. You know, the kind of sound like Ray, Ra, whatever, like that. And then my brain automatically went into a god mode to where I was able to see over everything. And but I was like, if I'm able to see over everything, I won't remember anything because I'm seeing everything. So I remember nothing, you know? And so I localized myself back into myself to enjoy the experience of the trip.
Okay.
Is
And that's when you text me.
Oh, that was my first trip. The last time the thing about the trip is the mushrooms shows you every single thing that you've been suppressing subconsciously, you know? So it's gonna come out. Let's say like if you have somebody else close to you that passed, they may come looking like a very like like very ugly demon looking type thing. But when you go up close to them, their face shows, and you're actually having to have a conversation with you. But if you keep running from them, it causes you to have a bad trip because you're in fear and it's not causing you to face your fears. So
That's exactly what I experienced 15 years ago.
cool, man. That's the beauty part. About the thing that helped me a lot with mushrooms is that I'm pretty much accepting to all realities. I'll
Oh yeah.
yeah, you know. So when you try to
Even if it's a bad trip.
right,
If it's a bad trip, when you get off, it's like having a nightmare and understanding it. It's like you wake up and you're attuned. You realize why you had the bad trip, and the way you just put it was perfect because that's exactly what happened. I sat down with my upstairs neighbor, and we were just having a conversation, and he didn't know I was on shrooms, and his face started like turning into basically melting.
Right, you got the visuals.
I had to sit there. I had to sit there and talk to him and have a conversation while like parts of his face are falling off. And I'm like, well, this is gonna be fun. But then over time, everything got normalized. And then my homeboy came and got me, and we drove to another place, another home. And the drive to get there was forever.
Right, eternities.
And every red light that we were hitting, I'm a green light kind of guy. Like I like my timing when I'm driving and the timing of green lights. And every red light or every green light that I would see off into the distance would turn red when I got there, and then it would get further away.
Yep.
So
I know.
This really weird time and distance distortion.
Right.
I was like, oh, okay, this is cool because how does this mesh with my belief system when I'm not on a trip? And then I just synthesized all of that, and that's kind of how I got off weed too. Now that I think about it, I may have smoked weed maybe 5 or 6 times after my shroom trip, and then I never smoked it again because shrooms kind of encapsulated all of the quote unquote hallucinogenic things that I had going on in my mind. And maybe there's a whole lot more since then, but at the same time, I feel like once you have access to it, you can process it consciously under no influence of anything, and you can kind of work through it similar to how Doctor Strange does it, but without all the, of course, the spells and all that shit.
Right, but that's the beauty of it. What you did, you're almost like Neo out of the Matrix having the Wi-Fi. You know what I'm saying? Like you're able to have powers outside of the Matrix. But the beauty part about that is that your brain was able to do that. Is a lot of people take trips and be like, ha, that was fun, whatever, like that, and let the shit go. You're able to integrate that within your life. If you're not integrating what your conscience was showing you, it's useless to even take the trip. You know?
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely.
You taking this common sense, but I'm telling you, a lot of people take trips because I was watching this thing, this guy who does live trips or whatever like that, and one dude was like, everybody's being so judgmental, and he explained it like they're not integrating their trips within their personal life after they get out of it. That's why that it only needs to be used twice a year at the most. Nobody's gonna make money off of that.
Well, that tells you right then and there, their subconscious is not directed towards, problem solving or sense making or making sense of their life.
Their own life, right?
That's okay. We've had plenty of talks talking about how ignorance is bliss and all that, and that's basically ignorance encapsulated right there, like verifiable proof that if people take some of the strongest natural hallucinogenics available on the earth and they have no revelations or anything like that, then they're probably not doing much thinking in their day-to-day life.
Right. Those are people that seek outside happiness versus trying to find happiness within. And if you keep searching for happiness outside, you'll never be happy yourself, bro. Like, I mean, yeah.
That's why the alcohol, is enough for them, and getting drunk and that feeling, and the mushrooms is enough to just go in and, have a fun trip and smile and giggle and shit.
Right.
Because there's nothing else for the brain to work with.
Right. Yeah.
But, that's why it could be intense, man. I applaud the level of calmness that you brought to the whole thing because I've gotten a glimpse of how your brain works and how your thinking works. It could have been like 100 years worth of shit in your trip.
Oh, right. Exactly.
It could have been a lot. So for you to be aware while you're tripping of how to navigate it and all that speaks volumes about how you science things out and how you process things and how you get fine-tuned and nitty-gritty with stuff.
Right.
So, it's got to be not an ego boost, but it's got to be confidence building in your ability to handle that sort of stuff.
Yeah, yeah. And the thing about it was that that was my first trip, and then my second trip was um, it was kind of calm in the beginning, and then it was kind of intense in the beginning, but it stopped like within like 4 to 5 hours versus going 8 hours, and I'm like, okay, cool, whatever, like that. And so I was like, okay, I know I'm supposed to do it twice, but I'm gonna try this third time. And the thing about it is, the third time I took it, it was just pure meditation. Like I could see everything, I could walk not see everything, like see everything clearly as if I'm looking right now without it. And the crazy shit about that is, five 5 grams is supposed to give. It's called the heroic dose. Like it gets you to the visuals, seeing everything, blah blah blah. That I took 11 grams and felt the most peace I ever had. I haven't in it. I felt the most peace I ever had in my whole life. Like I was. It was integrating my meditation. That's why I was able just to text you just how I was. Like when I wasn't leaving the text in order to go back inside of a crazy trip like I was having before. I was leaving the text to go back inside of a meditative state while I was sitting outside, just looking at the sun and the stars, man.
You had a clear mind.
Very clear. It's like the mushroom showed me everything I needed to see. Like I have no more to show you. You know, if you're not gonna do anything with that, then hey, that's on you, buddy.
That's it, man. Yeah, that's an amazing thing to feel, and yeah, man. I mean, it's like, so here's the interesting thing: the way you talk about it, to someone who's never taken mushrooms, it would spark an interest in them taking it,
Right.
and to someone who has taken mushrooms, or to someone who has like studied and gone about trying to figure some of these things naturally, it's almost like an understanding. So that confirms that what you suggested earlier about like how the universe works and how mushrooms is a direct sort of navigation right to that. I agree. It is a. I think it is an element that can take you there if you're not willing to get there yourself, and that might be why you experience peace so very quickly into doing it, because you didn't have much like navigating to do to
Right.
get there in the first place.
Like it's kind of like when you eat some chips and they got some little crumbs at the bottom. It's like my mushroom chips took out those little crumbs at the bottom, and I was just an empty bag versus somebody who have like a whole bag of chips. Like you got to get through all this shit.
Yeah, man. I don't know if I want like some of these people on mushrooms.
No, no, it's not for everybody. I promise you. I promise you.
Yeah, no, it's not. That's for sure.
Yeah, because went to Romania again, like a month or two ago. I don't need to take pictures, whatever, like that. And so I was hanging out with one of it's a friend of the family from my wife's parents' family. They live like down the street, and they have a son that's like 18 years old, right? And he just enjoy hanging out with older people, just in experience, like learning about American stuff like that. He's very interested, kind of like us, just very interested in learning. And so he brought me to this little bar thing where a lot of his friends or whatnot meet up or whatever like that. And I'm sitting there, and this guy comes and he's tripping his ass off. The motherfucker just did some goddamn LSD just to see how fun it is, and he's biting his fucking tongue. I'm like, bro, stop using these drugs that's affecting your consciousness as something fun, man. This is something that you need to be to digest, to integrate within your life.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
and it's
That
so,
way
huh?
about a lot of things. I feel that way about a lot of things, man. I feel that way about information, about knowledge, about data.
Oh yeah.
I mean, every single, it's getting to the point where, like, every conversation that I have, I can sense when when what we're talking about is impactful, not only for the sake of the conversation or the two people that are having it, or however many people are having it, but understanding the conversation we're having is a microcosm of bigger questions that are out there. And the dialogue with another person might be a gateway, much like a psychedelic is or a mushroom, to answering questions that there's no no other way of answering them other than to compare data sets or compare experiences
Right.
and pull out the common threads there, because the common threads are what are verifiable. I can give you an anecdotal experience of my mushroom trip, and you can give me one of yours, and if we both have shared experiences, then we can say, well, that's interesting. That means we've either lived this part of our life identically, or there's something more to it where, like, the substance itself has like a set criteria of what it's going to do, and that's important when in science. Like, that's the scientific method in a nutshell. You have to verify.
Right.
You have to reproduce the theory. So, like, even conversations are science to me now, and when people don't take them seriously, I kind of just, I'm better at listening than I've ever been, so I do listen to them, but very quickly I can tune out and tune into something else.
Right. Well, my tune out when I'm having a very not mediocre conversation, I would say, with somebody, whatever like that, I tune out into what's a deeper mindset, or I tell myself this can be an example that I can use for later within a conversation with somebody who's on another level of consciousness. Like, I might give you a silly example of somebody that was doing something crazy and then this result happened. I could bring that to you of that experience, and you and I can go on a higher conscious level of conversation on it.
1,000%. I do this with stuff that happens in the news, because as much as I try to stay away from like current events and things that are happening in the world, I really don't want to be like influenced by the external world at all, or as little as I possibly can be. And what I mean by that is not like the natural world, not friends and family and stuff like that, but, you know, the propaganda machine.
Oh yeah.
Stuff that knows it's conditioning people, and that's how it makes a profit. So I try to stay away from being influenced as much as that. But something like the Kanye West story, or the Elon Musk story of him taking Twitter over and stuff like that. These things are they're kind of unavoidable.
Right.
You have a foot in the door already, but they don't. It means a lot to certain people that Kanye West said the things that he said and everything that's happened. I get it. There's a lot of people waiting to be offended, and whatever he said. But more philosophically speaking, there's stuff that I'll tap into instead of the surface level going on there.
Right, but
to the flyer here, you know exactly what I'm talking about.
but you see what I did though. I could have been like, yo X, you think Kanye gonna go broke? You think he should try to get automatically? I went into a philosophical of comparing Kanye to Neo, just to go on a meta level, you know.
Yeah.
Versus when you look inside the comment section, oh yeah, he gonna be broke within another year. Oh, this and that. People be having their own opinions and wrapping it into reality. Like, let's just have a philosophical conversation, because there really is no answers unless we talk to Kanye himself. And sometimes within Kanye himself, he doesn't know his own answer. So how you figured it out?
Absolutely, and he's very straightforward about that. Like, he's a lot like us when it comes to I would say he's where we were at 3 or 4 years ago, conversationally, interestingly enough, because if you remember some of the first talks we had, I really do want to listen to like the Periscopes we originally had.
Oh, I love that, man.
We would both agree that a lot of what we were going to say is like raw data that we've been building up, and we just haven't been able to lay it across in a conversation because there's not many people that can understand the raw data. So you keep it inside, or you write it out, or you put it in a song.
Right.
You're more of like an essay writer. I'm a songwriter, and we condense all this data that up to that point we didn't have an outlet for. So then when you start having conversations with people, it becomes a little bit more and more refined. And since then, you're still writing a ton, and instead of writing music all the time, I have a podcast where I get a whole bunch of it out. And so our process has been refined, but Kanye's been bottling it up.
Yeah.
To my knowledge, and we don't know what his friend group looks like. We know that his wife, certainly, imagine Kim Kardashian having philosophical conversations. Can't really do it. No offense to her, but like can't really do it. So then, like he takes the social media a lot of the time to get his rawest things that he can't keep to himself or he doesn't have a healthy outlet for, and he gets them out. And like he's basically where I was at 3 or 4 years ago with like nobody to really talk to.
I'm following that 100% because if I was to put inside words, it would have been the exact words that you just said, man. Like when that shit bottles up inside your head, you need someone to talk to. And the thing about it is, you and I could talk to each other or say something. Let's say something like 10 or 12 people, you know, and they're like, oh, that nigga crazy, you know what I'm saying? Whatever like that. But we know some people that we can talk to. But the difference between us and Kanye is when he says something, it goes out to 1 billion people.
Yeah, he's got a microscope under him.
Right.
And I was thinking about that today too. I was like, imagine, I don't know how long like we would last as notable figures. I'd like to see it. This is how I know the universe is looking out for us because it feels like the world around us is changing to accommodate our type of mentality. Whereas, and I say that with proof, like if you had a conspiracy theory 20 years ago about 9/11 or about propaganda or even something like, oh, our phones listen to every single word we say and every conversation you've ever had goes to this data bank of conversations. And the government has access to that. And they turn it into propaganda, and then they sell it to companies. And companies turn it into propaganda to feed you ads. And over time, these ads will be so personal and so personalized that you'll think the whole world revolves around you like Truman. But really, it's just you pumping data into the system, and the system turning it into a way to make as much money off of you as possible. If you said things like this
in 2001,
as a celebrity in 2001, you would be blackballed.
Right.
You would be treated like you were an alien, and then all of a sudden, people like Kanye West start saying like one-liners, like George Bush doesn't like black people.
Right.
And these weird things that all of a sudden, like the They Live population, the zombie population, has to pay attention to. They can't make sense of what he's saying, but they still have to deal with the fact that he said it. And so celebrities like him do people like you and me a big favor because, like you said, he appeals to billions of people. Well, theoretically, they might be 30-40% bots. So it's probably
right. You already know that.
tens of millions of people, but he does a lot of the work that we would have to do if we were in his position. And he, like, while he may be behind us in thought or in theory, conversationally speaking.
And that's not his fault because I feel there's no one to talk to him about it. But go ahead, sorry.
Exactly. He's ahead of the game entirely. He's definitely ahead of the masses and the mass population. And so it's very. I was thinking about this just today. I'm like, because I wrote a little bit of lyrics to it. Hold on. Let me read you exactly what I wore because it's dope. You know how I mess with the words and double meanings and all.
Right. Double entendres.
Yeah, the entendres. So what I wrote this morning was, and this is directly in regards to what's going on with Kanye on one level, but there's a little bit more than that. I said, fame is such a battle, I don't need your warship. So, a battle.
Right. Warship
and all that. But fame is such a battle, I don't need your warship. Water turned to wine, y'all turned God into an orphan. And so,
nice.
So, in a nutshell, it's like talking about what people do with information.
Right.
And what people do with the information that they're at is not always what the intent was. And it's not always like the reality of the situation. And I think if you're into preservation of reality, or if you're into the truth above everything, then the universe is going to recognize that. And you may not live the kind of life that you should be able to live. Like, I could very well say you and me are two of the more philosophical minds walking the planet, period. And for that, we should be living like the kings of Rome and have,
Right.
masses of women at our feet and buckets of gold in our dungeons and castles spread out across the entirety of the world. At the same time, the universe might say, we've done that with people and it doesn't work out.
Right.
It doesn't work to their benefit because eventually people revolt and then they look at those people as dictators or authoritarian figures, and they don't learn from any of the lessons that those people taught. And if they do, they don't learn what was intended to be learned. So there's this weird disconnect still with how all that works. But Kanye he's interesting because I don't think he cares about what people think about him. And that's, for a guy with such a big following, that's respectable because he's going to keep going, right?
Right.
At his own rate, regardless of losing endorsements and losing the black community, like he said it himself, that he's lost a lot of the black community members that supported him every turn, even with the Trump stuff and all that. This was the last straw, apparently. Like calling out some Jewish business people was the last straw for the black community. But what he's really saying is anybody who's indentured to like the slave mind state of working for someone else and making someone else money, those are the people that he's okay with leaving behind, I think.
Right. And the thing.
To unpack there, my bad.
Oh no, you're good. I'm unpacking it. We're on the same page. It reminds me of like you're saying, like some people will be lost. Like you brought this up at least 2 or 3 times, man. It didn't register the first time, but it started to register the second and third. Like you planted that seed inside of my head. You said eventually the weakest people of consciousness will rise. You know, like I can't say exactly how you word it. Like through time, you know, it's like we carry on. This is considered the highest consciousness right now. And then in 100 years, if we keep improving and improving, what's considered the highest consciousness will be considered the lowest consciousness.
1,000%. And I can add on to it a little bit because it's been a while since I said that. And now through life experience and understanding it a little bit clearer, I see, like I used to label the masses, and I still do, as like a blob, right? As like a big blob essentially of a little bit of stuff, a little bit of intelligence, a little bit of love, a little bit of all these things, but all together it's just a blob. And that blob forms the base, the very baseline for where society moves. It's kind of like the base to the pyramid, in my opinion, but it's the very lowest level on the hierarchy. It's the bottom line. But in the laws of the universe that I subscribe to, that pyramid is always being built upon, and the top gets finer and finer and finer. But it still comes out, it's carved out of this baseline. The thing is, the more abstract view of it is that this ascension is stronger at the top than it is at the bottom, if that makes sense. Normally, like when you look at a base of a pyramid, the weight of all the pyramid is at the bottom, physically speaking.
Right.
The weight of the ability to continue to build upwards is not up to the base. It's
Right.
It's up to whatever's at the top, essentially. And so if that continues, then the base has no choice. If it wants to continue to may have tapped into was realized by, capitalistic minds of lesser intellect. They realized that people weren't were directable, and they would have to follow suit if they wanted to
Right, right. To keep up with society.
quote unquote. Yeah, and so essentially the capitalist, not just capitalists, but the minds that were focused on greed and money, built a system that was somewhat inescapable for people, and said if you want to be able to survive here, you have to be willing to contribute to the base, and you're gonna make us more money in turn. And I mean, yeah,
Right, and to go towards the actual physical part about what you just said about the pyramids. I mean, I don't know how we can play with this. Of course, it's just clay that I'm just throwing out there. When
yeah,
they actually built the pyramids at the base, when you go to, because people think, oh, like you building a skyscraper, like you take like 2 or 3 years, but to build a pyramid took
right,
30 years or more. But as those 30
right.
years or more were advancing, going towards the top of the pyramid, the technology became better, and of course, people was
Oh, it
like,
was a lot less. Yeah,
right, and they were like, okay, the base, we use this sort of thing. That was okay, but I found this more advanced thing, and as you got to the top of the pyramid, it became more and more advanced and quicker to build.
right,
And if you want to be those people that stuck at the base, you can stay there. You know, I'm just using metaphorically as if you're a human being the base, whatever like
sure.
that. But if you want to move on to the top, you have to, you want to move upwards. You have to move to the top where it's more advanced.
Wow.
And that I'm using it as consciousness because, like at the beginning, like your consciousness was that the sun revolves around the earth, and then eventually through science, you found out the earth revolves around the sun. Now you can stay there if you want to, but you won't be up with society. Put it that way.
Wow. So this whole conversation is giving me, it's not deja vu, it's giving me retro causality, a moment of retro causality right now, like in real time. Um,
Nice.
so my brain knows all of the words that I've actually written down and put into song. I can't recall all of the words that I've written that I haven't turned into song, but everything I've turned into a song, I kind of know. And when I hear something that aligns with it, it sparks sort of a memory. Um,
Okay.
and I'm not the best with memory, so it's interesting that I thought that. So everything we're talking about right now, I think on a song, one of the ones I made last year, I think the American Beauty song, I said, it was a double face. It's on the third verse of double face. I said, you're talking to the bass, baby. I'm just here to relay. Fly with me over it. Gulf Stream, interject. Me and mine, label me a cult now. Me and mine, we intersect. And
Nice.
that's crazy, man. I said, talking to the bass, baby. I'm just here to relay. Fly
Right.
with me over it. Gulf Stream, interject. Label me a cult now. Me and mine, we intersect. So,
What was that? Was that Mayan? A play on Mayan?
what's that?
Was that
Oh,
me?
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
Okay. Cool. Cool. Cool.
Yeah,
I love that.
yeah. Yeah, that was part of it. So talking to the bass, baby, I'm just here to relay was actually teamwork. It was meant to indicate teamwork of like a relay race and how there's a foundation in a team to where you have to understand that you're working together. But at
Right.
the same time, it was a double entendre for an alien like base that was relaying information. I was trying to
I like
describe
that.
it like a big mothership that was relaying information back down to Earth, and that's how I communicated. And then I went into the whole label me a cult now. Me and mine will intersect, and the way I said it is intersect because a sect, SECT, is like a sort of a cult
Right. 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 It's
and
secular. Yeah.
all of that fun. But now that I'm having this conversation, the way that I speak about it's kind of like a mushroom trip. Um, I'm seeing but the actual reality of what I could say, or maybe an additional reality,
Right. Right. Right.
because it might not have been me that I was was talking about. I might have been saying you're talking to the base as if the words that you're saying are being spoken out into the public. So fly with me over it would be sort of like God saying, rise above that base.
Right,
Rise
right.
above the base, because that's what I say right after that. So talking to the base means like stop directing your words towards the masses so much, because a lot of my life has been spent not criticizing but addressing what I see around me as a fault. And all of the negatives that I see, a lot of my life has been documenting that. And so it could have been, yeah, man, that's okay. I'm good. I'm done with that little retro causation moment right there.
Nice.
Yeah, I'm telling you, man, that's how this shit works, bro.
Yeah, it's beautiful, man. And one of the things that I love.
Car right now. There's a car in front of me with the license plate, and it says Keystone.
Like a building.
Yeah, like a building or like the pipeline. Yeah.
Right. That keystone that holds everything together. What annoyed me the most is what I enjoyed the most on Twitter, because I joined into a second perspective of it. Because like first I was like, man, these people are just speaking nonsense. Like, what the fuck are you even talking about? Like they'll say something like, man, let's say like it's 2021, and they're like, man, Trump is killing our thing, and somebody under them will be like, dude, Trump is even the president even more. And then because the thing about Twitter is you're unaccountable. Like, but the thing, if you go within a Twitter conversation of someone of intelligence and someone not, eventually that person of non-intelligence quit replying. So it's kind of like filtering out the bullshit. Not saying this for everyone, because some people can gravitate towards the bullshit and be like, well, that intelligent guy who said Trump was messing up everything in 2021 just decided not to talk to the idiot guy. You know what I'm saying? Whatever like that. But if you have somewhat of intelligence, you can see where the idiots weed out and stop replying because they have nothing else to say, because that's all they just went off of what someone else said.
Absolutely. And so it gives you a little bit more of an access to like what is the reality of the situation.
Right, according to now, because one of the things was, it was just a local thing like that. We had a hotel that burned down to the ground, and so what happened was this hotel been messed up ever for 2 years now, ever since the hurricane came, right? But insurance wasn't doing anything about it. They wasn't paying the people, and so people were like, oh man, they're like, oh, the hotel owner did insurance fraud. They burned down the building. One person came up with a different perspective that quieted everyone. He said the hotel owner did not commit insurance fraud. The insurance committed insurance fraud by not paying him. Quiet.
Wow.
Quiet.
Just like that.
Fight against that.
Hey.
The insurance company was the original fraud. Don't blame the man who... Huh? Because if you paying your money every month, you're supposed to get it back with the insurance. They frauding you out of that. And then all the people who were saying insurance fraud, this guy should be ashamed of himself, was all quiet under that layer. And that's just something simple. I ain't trying to go deep within that, but I'm just saying how you weed out the ignorance.
Yes, absolutely. And that forces. So there was somewhere I wanted to go with this, and it's AI related. Okay, so one of the biggest setbacks we used to have, and I want to ask you this, because in a weird way, we tackled this in advance of, and things are going our way when you look at it. So we used to have discussions. Some of the areas we disagreed on were that people like wouldn't change, and that ignorance couldn't be overcome, and they were just always going to be ignorant. And so for the longest time, like we would go back and forth, and we would have a negative view about what could be done to change that, right? We thought like we would have to live in idiocracy.
Right.
And it's kind of like, it's depressing to think about sometimes.
Yeah.
And with dumb people that continue to have into a world where the education system isn't great. So everything changed when I started incorporating artificial intelligence into the whole thing.
Okay.
Because take an example of like a Twitter conversation. You could code AI to pick up on when the ignorance goes away.
That would be awesome. And they get like a check or something, like a
Exactly.
not like a money check, but kind of like a confirmation check. You know, like this was.
Yeah. You can pretty much write code to say, okay, here's a known troll account, or here's
Right.
a known of somebody who is corrupt and has like 3 sleeps with transvestites and has a cocaine addiction. Like you can code stuff like that. You can code stuff like that, and you can teach the AI to basically ignore everything that they say on matters of importance. Or at least you can do the opposite and say, what are their strengths, what are their weaknesses, and what are they good at discussing, and what are they good at synthesizing information from, and accessing the reality of the thing, of the situation on, and what are they good at speculating. It's like with
Right.
me.
Oh, you know, what'd be awesome. Sorry to cut you off. Just keep that mindset real quick. If the AI can show hypocrisy, and hypocrisy AI. Let's say like you have Jane Doe who's like, oh, their marriage is not going to last because they did this, and that, and then the AI kicks in and be like, Jane Doe has been through 2 divorces.
But you know, it can do that behind the scenes.
Yeah, it has all your information.
Yeah, it can do that already behind the scenes. So like we're already there. So that's why I think it's very. I wanted to ask you like, it's almost. All right, let me just ask you. Do you think that AI can steer the base?
Would AI steer the base as AI? Would AI steer the base as disguised as a human? I'll just tell you this. I'll just tell you this from my perspective, because my wife brought up a good point. She says the priests used to be marriage counselors, although they could never have been married. Like, how are you going to give advice for something that you never went through? So I think if you just purely use it as AI, people would be like, this dude never lived this thing, so he can't really tell me what it is, even though he is speaking 100% facts. I mean, inside your model, would you base it as a human, or would you base it as AI?
Well,
Nothing's right or wrong, because I just use the thing that keeps coming to my mind is fucking GPT-3. Like,
well, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, GPT-3 is fire, but that's the surface level of what I'm suggesting. GPT-3 is like, it's not antiquated in a negative sense, but it's not what I am suggesting. So
okay, no. I just like that program. I go back to the original thought. I'll just.
what I'm suggesting is like just a couple steps in front of that, and I actually have a terminology for it. It's called AI nudging, is what I refer to it as.
Okay.
And there'll be an episode in like 3 or 4 weeks where I kind of introduce it on my podcast, and I'll have to remember what the timestamp is and have you hear it. So AI nudging is
Closer to the truth?
yes.
Okay.
Well, it's closer to.
I mean, nudging you closer to the truth versus bullshit. Like, is the AI? What is the AI nudging you towards?
Right. Well, it's nudging you towards optimal subjective experience.
Okay.
So let's say like an ignorant person or someone who like takes a mushroom trip and does it for shits and giggles and not to discover anything.
Right.
So AI nudging would essentially feed that person articles of interest of which they are interested in. Like, say they like the Fast and Furious movie.
Okay. Cool.
And it would start feeding them articles on the Fast and Furious movies, but embedded in those articles would be philosophical discussion that the unconscious couldn't ignore. So that the next time he or she takes a mushroom trip, because the AI is aware of that. He has absorbed his surface level material, his Fast and Furious like stuff. He's read an article about how Vin Diesel and The Rock have reunited and they put aside their differences. But within that discussion about how they put aside their differences is a discussion about how teamwork and how uniting with people that you have disagreements with and learning to understand other people's perspectives. There's all this language that the AI can use in an honest way to make the person go one level deeper on purpose.
Okay, and I follow you 100% on that because what you said, you go towards their interest. Because the thing about it is, if you type in something and they're like, here's an article, nobody's going to read that if it doesn't strike their interest. So, like you said, you go to Fast and Furious, something that strike their interest. Okay, yeah, I like that idea.
Yeah, because everything right now, as far as the advertisements are concerned, they're force fed. So, like when you get on Twitter, when you get on Instagram, like whatever you talked about. If you mention something like driving by a Chuck E. Cheese or driving by a Pizza Hut or that you're hungry and you want a pizza, you'll get a Pizza Hut ad. And it'll come back because there's key words and stuff like that. But we haven't tapped into, and what GPT-3 does is it taps into like the banks of data that exist on the internet and it simplifies it. And so what GPT-3 can do with personal data is it can tap into the banks of the personal data and it can synthesize it into simpler formats. So if somebody does enjoy all of these things that are very surface level, it can start embedding like messages, positive messages, not subliminal negative messages like we've always done in the history of time, but it can start nudging people into realizing things that are beyond their scope at the present moment.
I like.
Yeah.
One thing I agree 100% on this topic, but one thing that I sort of went against you with, I think you either messaged me this or seen a post or probably both, that you believe or that you feel at that moment, I don't know if you still feel this way, that GPT-3 should be our teachers.
GPT-3 should be our counselors that are, okay, teachers is fine, but I look more of it as like a counselor that you can't avoid talking to because you do have issues.
Okay. Only reason, not saying I disagree with the whole thing, because me personally, as a kid, I would have loved to have an AI as a teacher because it cuts out the bullshit. Because let's say like if you're reading something and your teacher's a strong Republican, when they say something positive about the Democrat, they automatically gonna start saying the negative shit about the Democrat because they want to go towards their own thing, whatever like that. But
oh yeah, 1,000%. It could be both things at the same time. Yeah.
Right. The one thing that and again, like this is weeding out all of majority of my teachers because I want to say only about 5%, maybe 10% at the most, had a personal effect on my life versus an AI. Like there's something I don't know if you went through that. Like you had one teacher that just said something that just stuck with you. Now the other 90% was just robots. This is gonna be on test, blah blah blah. This is gonna be. It's like, what the fuck are you even here for, bro? So
Right.
I could just use an AI for that shit.
No, that's perfect. But here's what AI nudging can do. AI nudging can make it so that instead of only having one of those teachers, the AI nudging itself can improve teachers to the point where they become more like that rare teacher.
That'd be beautiful, man.
This goes back to base mentality and the pyramid growing. Like that one teacher should be improving as well, and they should be like leaps and bounds beyond. They should be, instead of just a teacher, they're like a family member and a friend, and they grow and they improve what they were already good at. But what happens to the bottom nine? The 9 teachers that weren't that should rise up a little bit and be a little bit more efficient at what they do, and all of a sudden the entire education system changes because you don't have any bad apples in the orchard anymore.
Right.
You have trees that are improved, that have better fertilizer to begin with. So the trees, or better soil to start off with, healthier soil. as
Right,
it
right, right.
produced more stuff. AI,
It produced more red apples than rotten apples.
exactly. AI nudging mixed with GPT-3 can not only produce a curriculum that is more in line with the truth, it can assist in producing teachers that are more in line with helping students versus making money versus teaching because it's a job and they qualify for it because of their college degree. Like AI nudging,
Right.
AI nudging can actually embed value into people that that you can't really call it manipulation. My co-host would say, well, that's forcing people to do things they don't want, and I'm suggesting that it's more of like de-patterning because they've been conditioned so far in one
Oh
direction
man.
that they lost touch. They lost touch of what they were to begin with.
Oh man, that is beautiful because like the book that I was reading it said once you stop defining yourself, once you stop defining yourself as this ceiling and
Yeah.
open yourself up to more things, you find a way to unfind yourself and become a higher conscious because you're no longer worried about I need to reach this ceiling right here to be considered good within the society. Because if you look at teachers, if you look at the whole school system, it's just a big circle jerk. Like
Yeah.
your professor teaches you the best that he knows, and then you repeat what he knows, and then
That's it.
it's just a whole bunch of people blocking themselves with the ceiling of the high because and then you keep reconfirming yourself over something over internet thing that you've read that somebody at Harvard did. Like I told my wife, I said if they have somebody at Harvard and they have they have somebody at Harvard who wants to open up a new science lab, right? He doesn't have the money, he doesn't have anything. A billionaire comes to him with a bunch of frog skins. Frog skins have proven to heal nothing. But he says, look, if you write inside your document that frog skins heal cancer, I will buy your science lab. Next thing you know, on the article on the internet, a Harvard professor is proving that frog skins heal cancer.
Yeah,
But
it's confirmation bias 101. It's crazy. The way you put it is exactly how it is. Yes, sir.
yeah, stop seeing people that's at Harvard as these aliens that came down from Earth and seen from a whole different point of view. They're human just like us and subjective and able to be manipulated just like us.
Yeah,
Like
absolutely.
at the time when Niels Bohr he told Einstein that quantum entanglement is real. Einstein wrote a whole paper with two of his homeboys saying that that's total bullshit, right? Who are you gonna go with? Next thing you know, the 2022 Nobel Peace Prize was proving that quantum entanglement exists. So that was one of the times that Einstein was wrong. But the thing about it is, if you just keep repeating what your previous people said, then that's all you will ever stay at.
Absolutely. That's confirmation bias 101. That's why the education system produces a very fine line factory style employee for the upholding of whatever the corporate agenda is of that particular country.
Right. And that goes back to the Neo and Kanye. If you're not connected to the machine, you'll be considered an outcast. Like your whole thing dies. Like you need to be according, because the thing about it is with Kanye, and I'm not trying to like lead off the situation. It's kind of like the Rick Ross situation. Rick Ross talked about selling drugs, killing niggas in the hood all day, doing the most worst shit. But the second that nigga said rape that can be implemented within the white community, they shut that nigga whole Reebok deal down. They shut everything down. You can kill niggas all you want. You know what I'm saying? I don't care, but don't mention the word rape. So the thing was, Kanye said some shit about black people. Slavery was a choice. Keep going. We'll give you more deals. The second that nigga went against the machine and said the Jews, cut off.
Yeah, when he went DEFCON 3.
Right. Yeah.
It's interesting that you mentioned the education system because, like, we don't know how deep. I was telling my girlfriend the other day that Jewish people in positions of power, they were imprinted upon as well. If you think about like the reparations that Jewish people in this country received on paper
were because of the atrocities that were performed during World War II.
Right. Yeah.
In a lot of ways. And so you think about the atrocities that were performed on them in World War II, and you're talking about the Holocaust. And if you agree with genetic imprinting, and, you know, there's evidence of major traumatic events, like even on a localized level, if you were beat as a kid, if you were molested as a child, or even if your mom was molested while you or raped. There you go. Children that are a byproduct of rape, they come out with certain like weaknesses and mental effects from that traumatic experience. And so you could argue that Jewish descendants, direct descendants of Holocaust victims, came and were born into this world and were given some of these positions of power in modern day, some of the grandchildren and great-grandchildren of Holocaust folks, people that died and people that survived, and they have it embedded in them that not only is all the negative, I'm trying to say this like politically correct, but at the same time raw, at the same time
Be raw as you want, man.
the world, okay, so these people have a mentality that the world is a very evil place, and that in order to survive, you have to fight fire with fire, and the fire that they fought is like a Hitler dictator style authoritarian regime that wanted to exterminate their entire species.
Right.
And so that imprints upon them to say, okay, we're not going to do that, but we are going to survive by any means necessary, and we're going to do it at the expense of whoever is a victim. And then you sort of get what's happened in the last 80 years, where very rich members of the Jewish community move like a mob.
Oh yeah.
And they essentially cut out anybody who isn't on board with what they're doing, regardless of the impact that it has. Like, there's a lot of people that argue JFK was taken out by the mob, and was taken out by the mafia because he was going to change the world as a president. And you could argue that there were some Jewish persons that were behind some of that stuff because it would have made sense. So I guess where I'm going with this is like, yeah.
Yeah. No, I get you, man. It's just someone just put it inside the air, man. And another weird thing that, I mean, of course, everybody's willing. My thought process as a child is different than my thought process as an adult. But like the irony of Adidas dropping Kanye, and not to dwell on this too much, is that the creator of Adidas name was Adolf Rossler or something like that, and he was part of the Nazi Party.
Wow.
Like, I don't know what you do with this information, but like you just did, like you just threw information and catch it if you can. But
Sure.
that's information out. This is.
Well, absolutely. I mean, it's impossible to ignore that. And again, this goes back to genetic imprinting. The people who carry on with like apocalyptic sort of theory and religious sort of Armageddon theory, very often those are the people that are the most indoctrinated into that belief system. So, you know, somebody who is still waiting on the second coming of Christ and thinks that it's going to be like red clouds and dragons coming out of the air, if they literally think that that physical reality is possible, then the baseline is their attachment to like being an extreme religious zealot, or they're very indoctrinated into like the Catholicism or the Catholic Church, and they've been imprinted upon very heavily. So if that's verifiable, and if you couple it with my theory that we we have a lot of cults in this country, and
Oh yeah, you have cults within cults.
everyone is a member of a cult, whether it's like consumerist cult or whether you're a cultist for corporate like work or whatever. Then what you're saying, in combination with what I'm saying, is that the people that are running some of these companies are essentially like, yeah, they're members of a community that is still reliving its trauma, and they're reliving these traumatic experiences that happen to other people. And you know, the black community does this as well when they when grandchildren or great grandchildren of slaves feel as if it's their reparations to have. You know what I mean?
Right. Even though they didn't go through it.
Yeah, like you could have a six-figure salary and be climbing up the corporate ladder, and then you go online and you're like a Black Panther or you're an activist for Black Lives Matter, but then like as soon as you log out, you're a yes man for like a mortgage company.
Right.
So
Right.
there's a lot of that going on. I think that there is a duality in society. So I might not have been as concise as I wanted to be, but there are. I think one of the things that members of cults have to deal with is the split personality syndrome, to where they can't help but to be affected by the group mentality. And that group mentality isn't a real-time thing. The group mentality is whatever it was when it originated. Like whenever that synapse in the mind kicked on, that someone realized, oh my gosh, we are members of this community and we're affected by this. Whenever that culture started, those imprintings are there and they continue on through time. So they're unavoidable for the people today that just like bandwagon something, or they think they're part of a cause, or they're even a part of a color or a creed or some group. It's unavoidable. They don't get to stake claim to what they stand for today, this day and age. They have to absorb whatever the past and the history is of that particular culture. So
Okay, what I want to bring up with that last thing that you said, because I was trying to figure out a way to integrate it, but kind of see what you're saying, but I might not. So what I want to use is the Nazis ruled over the Jews, right?
yeah,
And so that ruling wanted to put them in.
tried to, yeah, and they basically that the result was yes.
And now the Jews wants to rule over the entertainment, or I guess the world, whatever like that. But they're almost in the same position as they was with the Nazis. But instead of killing you physically, they kill you personally, like as a human being, like your identity. They kill your identity.
It's diluted. Yes, it's not as extreme.
Right.
It's an improvement upon the treatment that they received.
Right. Because the example that happened was that so I was watching this thing. I don't know why I came across entertainment. I don't even subscribe to entertainment. But there's a rapper called Fivio. I don't keep up with the new rappers either. Fivio, whatever the fuck his name is though.
Yep.
And he's saying that Mace is screwing him over because he's over Mace. And then Mace said, "I am just doing the same thing that Puff Daddy did to me."
Puff did to me. Yep. And I was gonna say, this is verifiable in more intimate settings and personal settings. Like the trauma that you experience as a child, at a certain point, you will, if you experience trauma, you will have to face it in your adulthood or in your upbringing, and then you'll be faced with a challenge, kind of like what we were talking about with the hallucinogenic trips. Like some people choose not to confront those traumas,
right?
And that's where you have to have empathy for the Jewish community, is because the world hasn't really and the black community as well. The world hasn't given them the platform to really talk about what happened during that time frame. Because at the same time, that's the thing that history has on its side is we can't ask many Holocausts. Well, we still could, but and we have their testimonials too. So I don't know how valid what I'm saying is about that particular thing. Like, we can't get their full side of the story and the harshness, but we certainly don't absorb it as a community and really like evaluate what was happening then. Like, it's not like there are people actively at this very moment, other than maybe me and you and whoever's listening, that are really processing like the trauma that was experienced during the Holocaust. There's no dedicated branch of psychology that does this for a living so that they can start reversing slowly and therapeutically addressing the trauma that may still be lingering. But we do it as individuals. Like, if you had a terrible childhood and you were molested or beat up as a kid, we confront that because we have the time to do it throughout a lifetime when it comes to an individual.
Right.
When it comes to an entire community, it's a much bigger task to have to undertake. And we don't have systems and infrastructure built to that. And this is why AI nudging is a perfect thing again. Because AI nudging can get to the core of what was happening with something like the Holocaust and with authoritarian dictatorship. And AI nudging can, and here's a grandiose statement, AI nudging can make President Trump a president. It could turn Donald Trump into a president so that you force the issue amongst an entire community of people to say, this is what a dictator can do.
Right.
And this is the conversation that needs to be had so that it's never again even remote possibility that you get to a Hitler style of person. Because Trump is a downgrade from Hitler, but he's like on that same sort of track of what a Hitler was. But he's a downgrade, which inversely tells you that things are improving, because Trump didn't kill a whole bunch of minorities. He didn't lead a bunch of people into a gas chamber, maybe metaphorically speaking.
Right.
But he literally didn't do it. However, we can synthesize the data, and you can actually say, like, okay, Trump was Hitler, but he was Hitler in this time period. So how did the world react to him in this time period? And how do we improve upon that? And AI nudging can do all of that. It can even set up the scenarios that you need to confront. It can essentially force society to confront its demons, like, without being able to ignore them.
Right. And what you just said, using the examples of something current to something past. So let's say like Adolf Hitler in the 1945s when he was in Germany and he was like, okay, Adolf Hitler took over Austria. Cool. Okay, Adolf Hitler took over Poland. Okay, cool. And then he go to like 3 or 4 more countries, like, whoa, hold the fuck up. This nigga's going too far. You know, we need to stop this right now.
Yeah.
But now you can go into a watered down Hitler and go into Putin that's just trying to conquer one Ukraine. You're like, look, in the past, if you allow Putin to conquer Ukraine, he's going to try to conquer this one. He's going to try to conquer this one, just like Hitler did in the past. This is just the beginning of the stages.
And guess what Hitler was read up on? He read the Alexander the Great stories.
Right. Fascinated by it.
He
Conquered.
had his influencers as well. So, like, with all of this data being accessible now, it's a different world that we live in, because if you have access to information that can prevent things from occurring and you don't prevent them, then you're making a choice that says you're going to let history repeat itself. And
right.
That isn't necessarily conducive of what occurs with the natural flow of things. So if you actually want to get in tune with the bigger picture, the as above, so below, the correspondence that's occurring outside of your peripheral existence, the alignment to progress is what is occurring, in my opinion. So in order to get there, as a human species, if force is required, meaning not metaphorical force, but force in the sense that nudging in that direction is what's required, then it's okay. It's acceptable. It's not an infringement on human liberty. It's not an infringement on privacy, because you're only using data that the user gives you voluntarily, much like the Pizza Hut ads are using the fact that you said, I really want a pizza, and you set it into your phone, and then Pizza Hut's algorithm says, well, here's a Pizza Hut ad.
Right.
So yeah, all we're using here is like the traumatic experiences that somebody has, or the negative experience that an entire culture has. So, for example, slavery, all of the discussions that have been had about slavery, AI consolidates all that information, and GPT-3 comes up with a curriculum and a regiment to where slavery is no longer a potential. And like, here's the important part about that is slavery is not exclusive to a race, a color, a gender.
No, it's not.
Slavery is a lot of people argue that slavery is a natural part of the human condition. So in order to prove that incorrect, you actually have to put this into effect to determine whether or not it is. Because if it is, if the theories of like an alien species being the dominant race over humanity, and they put all humans to slave work, and we're really all just working for them. If that has any merit, scientifically speaking, you would have to roll out a way of theorizing or a way of putting it to the test. And this is what artificial intelligence is, because yeah, I mean, it just works that way.
That's cool how you said that. That slavery is almost like almost inevitable. I mean, according to our little perspective or whatever like that. Because when you bring to something simple as this goes back to the whole Jews and Nazis, that back to the Matrix. Like, at first the humans controlled the machines, and then the machines took over and made the humans the slave.
Yes.
It's sort of natural, but
it's a more altruistic version of that.
It's kind of like, I'm gonna be you, but I'm gonna be a better version of you, even though
exactly. Yeah, I'm gonna use all the tools that you didn't use wisely, and I'm gonna show you that they can be used wisely, and then I'll give you another choice to choose to use the tools wisely. And if you choose not to use the tools wisely again, you won't have as much freedom to use them in the wrong way, because I've already seen what the freedom to use them in the wrong way leads to.
Right.
Essentially, I'm writing code that says history cannot repeat itself.
Right.
And I'm asking the universe to show me, is that an accurate theory on the reality of how the universe works?
Right, because the thing about it is, people in power, I mean, after so long, money becomes obsolete. It's nothing to them. They want to see how much they can control. And from their point of view, they have nothing but time. To us, it's like, oh man, this is fucked up right now. We need to get out of this right now. But to them, all they're doing is running a program to see how it would be like if they were the rulers at this moment versus someone else is ruling them.
Absolutely.
And I believe, like, your nudging thing, like, I believe Twitter is a very archaic model of AI nudging, but you're using other humans to kind of nudge out the bullshit information and kind of lead. But yours is way more advanced, of course, because it will lead them to websites that correlates with their mindset. But I believe, like, Twitter's very archaic way of nudging people towards the truth if you read the whole comment section versus reading the only comments that you relate to, confirmation
Right.
bias.
You have to rely on the person making that choice, because we base our social media models off of free will and choice. And I'm open to the idea of leaving that there, but what I am suggesting is you add a deeper layer of what's possible. So instead of just having it focus on what makes us money, to like shovel in front of people's faces, you add the whole layer of what improves the person's ability to comprehend all of these lists of virtuistic and introspective qualities.
Right.
What will improve this person's ability to read? What will improve this person's ability to understand more than just their subjective interpretation of something? What will improve?
Oh, that's
you
beautiful.
Throw a bunch of information out at them, but right now, all the social media sites do, all the Netflix documentary confirmed this like 3 or 4 years ago, is they're designed to bipolarize you. They're designed to create that split personality. So we've been through that phase. The next phase is taking that split personality and sort of synthesizing it and creating a new organism or a new mentality out of it. But I'm suggesting that new mentality will not be a negative one. So, and my theory is like, because if it's a negative one, then history repeats itself.
Right.
You get a bunch of crazy people, and you get a bunch of people beating themselves over the head with bats and with clubs.
Right.
We've seen that before. We've seen like the steps that it were needed to progress from the Neanderthal mind to the more developed mind, whatever the advancement was from. I don't know why I'm blanking.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
Yeah, but whatever the evolution of the human species was, it's always been progressive. Like when we learned to open our mouths, words didn't come out, but eventually they did. When we opened our eyes, we didn't understand everything that we were seeing, but eventually we came to understand things a little bit better. Science works the same way. So this has to work. It's
Well,
inevitable.
that's why I see the beauty of the AI nudging. This is a middle part that you part of the middle thing that you had just said, is that like so let's say like a kid is because like when you get to a teacher, the teacher is like a parent. They only can tell you the best that they know, you know? Like I don't know Lil Jimmy likes Marvel comics. I don't know Lil Jeffrey likes wrestling. But let's say like that AI teacher knew that. And so let's say like you're reading something on Genghis Khan or on Hitler or on whatchamacallit. Let's say like Hitler. And the little kid is like, this is not interesting. And the AI would say, hey, you remember that movie you watched in Marvel? And this character was like this? Well, this correlates with Hitler. And these are the similarities between these two. And that would spark that kid's mind to learn more, because he can correlate the information from the movie he watched last week to the information that he's learning this week.
Absolutely. And
I like that. I like the AI nudging thing, man.
You're spot on there, because a lot of our discussions use the metaphors and the comparisons of some of the movies that you and I
Right. But we know each other's movie. A teacher doesn't know what each child likes to be able to correlate that.
Exactly.
That AI will be able to split with, let's say like they have a peer teacher, but each student has their own tablet with the GPT-3 built into it. And when the teacher's trying to explain something and one kid clicks, I don't understand, the GPT-3 kicks in and correlates something that kid watched.
That the child does understand.
Right. So it's kind of like a hybrid system. You have the GPT-3 with you with the tools that they're using, plus you have the teacher to give an overall human experience view.
Yeah, you have a hybrid system. That's definitely sounds pretty sensible, man. I'm sure we'll see it. It's just a matter of how soon.
Oh, for sure. Because man, that would just look. That would be crazy. like the unlimited. I don't even know if it would confine itself or would it make it better if GPT-3 wrote the coding for GPT-4.
Yeah. Well, that's what GPT-3 is naturally inclined to do. It pulls data off the internet, and it's cumulative. So anything that it learns along the way will be incorporated into its learning process, like in the way that it renders answers to questions. So if any new science exists on the internet on a particular topic, it's already directly fed into the real-time code. It absorbs it, and then it adds it to everything that was affected by that new realization. So, like, if all of a sudden the truth or something comes out about the moon, and we have two moons instead of just one,
Right.
purely hypothetical, then all of a sudden everything that ever existed in the curriculum of history that had the phrase "Earth has only one moon" is completely removed
I like
from
that.
any of the answers that it can give, and the new reality, once it's completely confirmed, takes over. And that might be why we've gone through such a long period of misinformation, is because we have to get all of what isn't the reality of the situation out. And so
Right.
all of the ignorant masses' opinions on particular topics or what they think is important has to get out there so that it is fed into the bigger data bank, and we could just start crossing lines through shit.
And the beauty of that is the example that I gave you about the billionaire trying to make more money off the frog skin. GPT-3 isn't affected by money.
It is not. It's affected by
The greater good.
reality of the situation and the truth of the situation. And truth is an interesting thing. I don't know that it's ever been used on a mass level for negative.
Right.
Like I'm trying to think of it here. I'm trying to think of like the actual reality of the situation. Like, has anybody ever been able to like turn the fact that we have two eyes, a nose, and a mouth into a negative?
Right.
Like I'm working with a limited amount of like real world sort of facts in front of me right now, because I'm looking at like a big banner in front of me. Like, it's impossible. The things that I can acknowledge and stamp and seal that are true right now in this moment in time, I can't turn them into a negative.
Right. And the thing about that is the thing that I learned from Cornel West is that, I mean, he obviously took it to someone else, is you're speaking of truth with a capital T. Because like I said, truth is Uncle Phil was Will Smith's uncle. That is lowercase t truth. Yes, that is true according to that TV show. But outside of it, capital T truth, they have no relation amongst each other.
Right. Absolutely.
Yeah, the capital T truth. Not just truth of subjective towards what's existing now, you know?
The capital T truth, which is like the running current of reality formation and what the children in the next 20 to 30 years will have to overcome in order to access the truth. Because you and I are perfect examples of the road to realizing certain things hasn't always been easy, but once you get there, you want to share it with as many people as you can, because you want to save them the time and the effort of which you put forth. And you can still retain that experience of doing it all on your own, because there's so much to learn and so much that you don't know, to go very Socrates with it. Like,
yeah,
obviously you can be at the peak of what is capable of you knowing at this moment in time, but the very next day you might have a life experience that teaches you and adds on completely
a different layer of reality,
something completely new. What I'm suggesting we can start to stray away from is learning something that you were wrong about.
Yeah.
Or being or something that you were way off about, trimming that fat, minimalizing the amount of things that you are wrong about in order to gain access to what awaits to be learned.
Right. And
Because
it's
otherwise, you're just sitting here and you're repeating traumas from the past and you're trying to figure them out. And we have enough data to start figuring those things out. We can certainly do it as individuals. There's certain things that I won't fall for anymore as an individual. There's certain transgressions that I'll never repeat myself. And therefore, I think I've changed the DNA code inside of myself to where my daughter won't repeat the same mistakes, but she'll have a whole slew of new ones.
right.
Go through, and we can try to make the most sense of what she experiences in her lifetime. Not only her as an individual, but together we can experience those things. The
Right.
same thing happens with marriage when you think about it. If you meet the one perfect person for you, first go ahead. I think it's still possible, and you can absolutely do that. But even then, there's some relationship, whether it's your relationship with your parent or a relationship with friends, that has taught you how to recognize that it's that person. And so the failed marriage or the failed relationship teaches you what to identify as what you're not interested in this person that you're seeking. And when you see that person, when you meet that person, it's almost too easy, and that is how progress should feel. Progress should feel
Natural.
like it's effortless.
Right.
What smooth? That's how the universe is. That's how light is piercing through the dark in the universe. It's effortless.
Right.
And so, if that is to ever work its way down to the fabric of our being here on this planet, that's what it has to be. It has to be effortless and AI nudging.
Yeah, and it's beautiful that you brought up Socrates because, of course, his famous quote is, "All that I know is that I know nothing." The second that you think you know everything, you automatically cap yourself off.
Of course.
And
yeah, you're putting a lid on the overflowing potential.
right, and the thing about it is, the typical person, they think that all the answers have been answered through these physicists and these higher up people, and that if they want to learn about it, they can. The whole Earth is within a box. But but when you start studying people like Neil deGrasse, your people at the highest levels, you will find out that they are so fascinated about learning new things. That's what stops their cap. Because once you figure that you know everything, you will learn nothing more.
Right.
Yeah, man. And once I realized that, because I used to believe, okay, scientists solve this, then that it's already been done. But when you talk to these scientists, they'd say, this is the best of my knowledge. I am bringing this upon the next scientist to take this idea, get rid of all the bullshit that this is the idea that I have right now, and then you add upon that because I really don't know. There's a huge difference between knowing why something works and knowing how it works. I could be like, if I ask you, like, can you drive a car? You'd be like, yeah, get inside that bitch, hit the gas pedal, hit the brake, turn the steering wheel. I know everything about a car. And then you're like, well, what does the engine, what does the pistons do? And you're like, shit, I don't know. I just know how it works. Stop saying you know everything about something just because you know how to manipulate it in a certain way to work for you.
Absolutely. Or because it was created to be as convenient for
Right.
your small brain as possible. Because it would make more money that way. If people had to know how the car worked, and if people had to be their own
Mechanics?
That's an interesting way to look at it. If there were no maintenance people and there were no mechanics, and you were responsible for your own car maintenance, then you would have a lot of people that just didn't buy cars.
Right, they'll get a bicycle because it's simple as fuck.
Buy cars. And you could have them even at a reduced price, and people wouldn't buy them. There should be like an IKEA for cars.
Right, that'd be dope.
Here's a $5,000 vehicle. You have to assemble it yourself. You'll have to maintain it for the rest of time, but it's $30,000 less, and it's electric.
Right.
That's not a bad idea.
Right.
That's not like a build your own vehicle, and it's yours. It'll last a lifetime, but as long as you take care of it. And
Right.
as long as you maintain it. You won't have to luxury of taking it to a mechanic shop. Those places don't exist. So
Right.
you'll have to figure it out. Oh, and here's the best part. We don't know how to fix things either. So you'll have to figure it out on your own.
Each car is customized to you, so what this guy knows how to do will not work on your car. So you have to figure it out on your own.
Absolutely. Hey, that would be so cool.
Yeah, because I mean, we take everything for granted. Oh, that's already been solved. That's already been, bro. The most basic thing you take every single day, like a battery. We still don't even understand how a battery works. Like we understand how to manipulate the electrons to go from one side to the other one to refill and recharge, but exactly how they're working, we don't know.
Right.
But if you're in that ignorant situation, you're like, well, if I want to know how it works, I'll just go listen to this guy and I'll have all the information. No, the guy that has all the information that you think has all the information is still learning his goddamn self.
He's learning. He's just more willing to
Dedicate himself towards that. Kind of like I told my wife. I said there was nothing. I'm not gonna say there's nothing special about Isaac Newton, but at the time, an apple falling to the ground versus falling to the sky was fucking with him. So he went into that deep dive of solving gravity. It wasn't that, oh, I already solved this, I'm just gonna give this to the world. It was, if you have like something on your toilet or something that's not working right and you know you can fix it, it's gonna keep fucking with you until you fix it, and then you figure out how to fix it, but you only keep that to yourself. People like Isaac Newton, Einstein was able to be like, I can write a paper about this, put this out inside the universe. This is fucking with me right now, and if y'all can improve on it, please do.
That's so funny because yeah, I've had one of our toilets here has given me issues over the last year and a half, and I did take the lazy man approach, and I called my maintenance people.
Okay.
They brought out a new flusher. It didn't work either, so they had to replace the whole toilet. So yes, I could have replaced the whole toilet myself.
If it fucked with you, you didn't have that maintenance man. Because Isaac Newton didn't have that maintenance man to tell him about gravity. He had to figure that shit out himself.
Yeah, and that's the stuff that I'm interested in, is the stuff that we don't have maintenance men for already. So, yeah, that's the kind of stuff that gets me going, bro. So, man, you already know.
No, I already know, man. Yeah, just always just keep a fucking open mind, man. Like, stop thinking that somebody has the answers. If I want the answers, I could just go read his book or something. No, that nigga's still trying to figure the shit out himself. Einstein went on his deathbed trying to figure out quantum physics, and he couldn't.
So after I have like very emotional experiences and stuff like that, I usually write music or poetry about it.
Nice.
Yeah. After I have like conversation, it happens rarely, but after I have like very raw new conversations, like this one, this is why we should take time like in between our talks.
Oh, I don't mind at all.
I actually have like doodles and drawings and shit like that. So
all my thoughts are in my notes. That's man.
Yeah, fascinating. I got a bunch of symbols on this paper, a bunch of stuff that I drew with a pen that was just like random scribbles. Basically, whatever my mind was doing at the time we were having the last 30 minutes of this talk. I'll send you a picture of what it looks like. It's kind of dope.
Okay.
It's not very artistic, but there's some stuff there that I'm gonna try to unpack. Oh, that's
right. Yeah.
I'm gonna go ahead and get some dinner going here at the house. But yeah, hour 40 minutes. You know, we can talk for like 10 hours.
Yeah, I already know.
Yeah, we will. Those earlier conversations, they're still on YouTube, right?
Yeah. It's on. I'll give you the link to it.
Yeah, throw me a link, and please tell me. I've gotten better at not caring that things are recorded. This one was recorded, right?
Yeah. Let me see if it's still.
Oh man, thank you. Perfect.
Yeah, for sure.
You're so diligent.
That's me, bro.
You've been very diligent. Hey, I always appreciate your time, bro. And we'll talk sooner than we have this last time because there's a lot more to talk about.
All right, I just want to leave you on this thing right here from what I read yesterday because I didn't have to digest this, but a typical person, the average person, not the average person, whatever like that person would have to digest this because it sounds weird as fuck. Inside the God Debris, it said God committed suicide, and so what it was is God knew everything, and once you know everything, there's nothing new. So like people still have that thing, I want to be surprised, I want to learn something new. But if you know everything, then you really won't ever learn anything new. So it says what God did was, it's all theoretical, you know. God committed suicide and digested himself into all the atoms that created the universe. So all of his consciousness is within all of us, even the plants, the animals, every single thing, and he's living through each one of us, experiencing life himself.
That's fascinating.
Yeah, it's, I go deep inside that book, but yeah, all right.
But why does it have to have a negative connotation? Like, what? Why would suicide even be like
Humans brought suicide. Humans' ego brought suicide into a negative.
yeah, like
Basically, God dispersed himself.
there you go. Yeah, similar to how when a star dies out, the supernova.
Right, and it brings all of his atoms to the next solar system, to the planets.
Exactly. We would look at death a lot differently if when you died, like all of your atoms blew up. If you could see like yourself shoot out into the open universe, we wouldn't be looking at death so grimly as human species. But we work with what we know on our level of understanding. So yeah, that's why that person probably used the word suicide, is because that's the closest connotation that they could come up with whatever idea they were trying to convey.
Right, it's beautiful because, like, of course, like energy cannot be created nor destroyed, and God is all energy because every single atom contains the energy that's within inside of all of us and the whole universe.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's like one of the questions that is ever evolving, and it has no choice but to ever evolve, is the whole God question.
Yeah, if you want to strictly believe God from the Bible, I can see how you can go against it because there are a lot of flaws within the Bible. If you want to believe God is a metaphor, that's even like a step kind of higher. And if you want to believe that we're all gods, not God himself, but parts of God, it's just a level of open mindset that when I meditate, I go inside my God self, pure consciousness. No thoughts going through my head or anything like that. Oh, that's what I want to tell you. Sorry I'm keeping you up, but they say a guy said, put inside simple words. He says meditation is a vacation for your brain. Because he says, think about it. Throughout the whole day, you're like, man, I need to do this. I need to do this. Man, that happened inside the past. That happened inside the past. Then you're like, okay, when I sleep, it's going to rest. But then when you go to sleep, you conjure up these dreams. Like your brain never takes a fucking break.
Never does. It's funny you mentioned this. Just last night, me and my girl were driving, and we were driving down a highway that we always drive down, but the feeling and the aura of that drive was different because my muscle memory literally relaxed.
Nice.
And it was 11:30 p.m. It wasn't rush hour, so I didn't have to pay attention to all the sides of my peripherals for bad drivers. I didn't have to worry about the brake. I didn't have to worry about getting where I was going. So everything shifted in that moment, and that's why meditation is crucial, because at the core,
it is.
At the core, it's like nobody has enough, or nobody really has dedicated time to just decompressing and being clear of things.
Being clear of thoughts.
Yeah, being clear of thought even. And so meditation sort of fills that gap, but that's where it gets like risky, because are you truly is someone truly meditating? If someone's truly meditating, they would have to have control over their subconscious and their unconscious feeling. Otherwise, they would never enter a meditative state.
Right. Well, the perfect example that I found was you are the sky, and your thoughts, everything that's passing through you, are clouds. Once you attach yourself to the cloud, you localize yourself into that thought. So if it's a dark thought, if you go inside that, whatever like that, you will have a dark feeling over your body. But as long as you remain the cloud, remain the sky, the pure consciousness, and let all those things just flow through you effortlessly, meditation goes to a whole different level, man.
It could be a conscious feeling, something that you can maybe sustain over time.
Oh yeah, because the thing is, if you're fighting your thoughts, you're not really inside. I don't want to judge anyone's meditation. I don't want to judge myself. I don't want to imprint my thoughts upon somebody else. But from my feeling, if you're not in deep meditation, if your whole meditation you're fighting off thoughts versus just letting every single thing flow. You're like, oh, I ate steak yesterday, and then you're like, okay, let that thought flow. Oh, I did let it flow, and you never attach yourself, because once you even try to fight the thought, you're attaching yourself to that thought.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And,
man.
I didn't want you to glide over it, but because I know you just slowly put it out there, girlfriend earlier, even though that you mentioned it again. But is it the chick from the video store?
It is.
Nice,
Yeah.
nice.
So talk about things coming full circle. Yeah, because I remember I talked to you about the situation like last year and all.
Yeah, I remember.
The struggle, all the difficulties that were being experienced on both sides.
And didn't she have a boyfriend that got upset and told her not to talk to you because of the whole situation and whatnot? What happened to this guy?
Yeah, pretty much. Well, full circle, and we can have this conversation in depth.
Oh no, that we just light right now. We have the next song.
But to summarize it all, I guess things played out for the optimal outcome of all people involved, and now we're just in a space that we wanted to be in a lot sooner.
Nice.
But we had to go through.
You have
what
to.
was necessary.
You have to, man. And the thing about it is that you went through that, you appreciate the relationship a whole lot more.
I would agree 100%.
Are before we go, of course I keep saying this, but are y'all in the I love you state? You ain't gotta share it with me, bro. I just want to use an example. Okay, don't even have to tell me the answer.
Absolutely, we are in the I love you stage. Yes.
All right, so this is what I learned with my wife, and I'm not trying to manipulate her because I told her what I did. Because when you get inside of it, I'm not gonna say y'all get inside of an argument. When you get inside of an argument, it's ego versus ego. The crazy thing about it is, if you want to break a female or a male, because I told her to do this to me too if I get too crazy within my debates. Look at me while we're in the heated part. I'm talking about like at 1,000%. Look at me, smile, and say I love you. And so, bruh, it's very hard to fight with somebody that's smiling at you and saying I love you.
That's true.
And my wife was like, I love you too, but blah, blah, blah. I said, you didn't mean that with your whole heart. Just tell me I love you. She said, I love you, Jay. Eventually.
What an interesting technique. I am interested in getting to a point where arguments are quelled in advance of them occurring.
Nice.
Thanks to AI nudging.
You definitely need to come up with this program because it's beautiful, man.
Absolutely.
I will talk to other people about your program.
Hey, the program was 7 years of a terrible relationship and a divorce. So I got all the code in the world in order to put into place to say, okay, if I start talking about this or she starts talking about that, then AI will nudge us to like have sex or do something.
Right.
I'm joking, but yeah.
I get you.
Well, we're in the I live together stage.
Nice.
So, yeah.
Nice.
Yeah, so it's accelerated to the point where we both are very happy with where we're at and looking forward to every little moment we get to spend together.
Cool. One situation. I know your ex was living with a roommate who had like dogs, and it was a bad situation. You like suggested that she move in with your mother. How's that situation with?
Oh, that's exactly how it panned out.
Okay.
Without my direct influence.
Nice.
That happened. And yeah, that was for the sake of my kid, and for the most part, it's a much better situation now than it would have been if she was living on her own.
Nice.
Yep.
I love it, man.
Everything's going great, bro. And the thing now that I'm working on, and I'll have to talk to you more about it, it's some of this business acumen and some of the stuff that I'm not great at.
I got you, man.
It's building up, so
I got you. Whatever you
next
need.
time we talk, we'll talk more about
Okay.
that.
Then don't think you bother me by asking me these questions. I enjoy talking about it, just like I told you about philosophy.
I look forward to it. Yeah, that's like meditation for you because it's your wheelhouse.
Right. Yeah, your wheelhouse was the spiritual world, which
I'm gonna let you know, and I'll be candid about it too, because it's successes and there's failures involved too. So I need to synthesize everything that's happened business wise so that I could grow in that regard as well.
I would prefer you to be on the level where autonomy is happening for you to make money, so you can go deeper inside your thoughts. So it's a win-win for both of us.
I try to get there every day, and obviously it's closer because I can have a 3-hour conversation with you and not worry about I got to get back on the clock.
Right.
So,
Yeah.
so
All right, bro.
I don't have a clock, but hey, always a pleasure, bro. Have a great night.
All right, you too.
For me, and stay safe, and we'll talk again.
All right. Later.